What's going on, guys? Back with another Borderlands 1 countdown video, and today I'd like to go over 10 of what I think are some of the best guns and weapons for Lilith the Siren in Borderlands 1. Now, like last time with Mordecai, I'm mostly going to be focusing on specific weapons and class mod recommendations, since Borderlands 1 tends to be a little more subjective when it comes to choosing grenades and shields. And to give you an idea of what you might see on this list, Lilith tends to specialize with SMGs as well as Maliwan and or elemental weapons, so you're going to be seeing a bunch of those on this list. Also, if you're interested in these Borderlands 1 countdown videos going over some of the best guns, weapons, and gear for each of the characters, definitely leave a like on this video, and also leave a comment which Borderlands 1 character you would like to see me do next. Personally, I'd like to maybe do Roland, but if you guys want to see Brick, definitely let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, and without further ado, let's go ahead and start with our 10th entry, and that's going to be the Maliwan Crux. Not to be confused with the Crux shotgun that's manufactured by S&S Munitions, the Maliwan Crux is a corrosive-only shotgun that consistently spawns as either a ×3 or ×4. Originally meant to be called the Plague in-game, the Crux gets its unique effects from the Plague accessory, which reduces base damage by only 20% as opposed to the standard 40% that you might find on other elemental accessories for shotguns. While this isn't in line with most of the other Maliwan legendary accessories, which usually either negate damage penalties or provide outright damage boosts, it's fair to say that the Crux's unique accessory still makes it superior to your average non-unique corrosive shotgun. And based on the gameplay you're seeing here, I'd say the damage penalty isn't that big of a deal, since the Crux seems perfectly capable of ripping through corrosive vulnerable enemies. Overall, this is a pretty great corrosive shotgun if you're looking for one, and goes really well with the Plaguebearer comm if you decide to build around that. Like many other Borderlands 1 legendaries though, this thing can be obtained from any suitable loot source. Number 9. The Doll Professional Class Mod. Even though it's a loyalty mod, and by extension pretty rare since it really only drops from Cromarax and some of the enemies that are found throughout the General Nox DLC, the Doll Professional Class Mod is a really good class mod for Lilith if you can manage to get your hands on it. Obviously, it's recommended that you use doll gear with it, especially if you want to benefit from the standard weapon damage and either the shield capacity or weapon mag size % based bonuses, but you can make gear from other manufacturers work. What I like about the professional comm though is the skill boosts and how they really complement the % based bonuses. As an example, the % based boosts to weapon damage and mag size really go well with the boosts to Quicksilver, which improve your fire rate and overall contribute to a nice DPS boost. Another skill like High Velocity is also nice in this department, as the improvements to damage are really nice, and the improvement to projectile velocity can also improve your weapon's range a bit, and is actually pretty useful if you plan on using sniper rifles. I think this class mod will definitely surprise you since there are a lot of great doll weapons in this game. Whether it be things like the Reaver's Edge, the Penetrator, Raven, Hornet, Anaconda, or Bulldog. Heck, you can even get a doll double Anarchy SMG, which will definitely go really well with this class mod too. So if you can get a doll professional, I would definitely recommend you do it, as it's a really great class mod. Number 8. The Specter Comm. While I would say Mordecai is a better sniper than Lilith, Lilith is admittedly not bad. This mostly comes down to her Specter Comm, which is actually quite similar to Mordecai's Sniper Comm and features a lot of the same % based boosts. After all, the Specter Comm boosts snipers' crit damage, and depending on what material you get it to either boost accuracy or sniper ammo regen. This makes Mordecai and Lilith the only characters that can passively regenerate sniper ammo, as there is no TD or legendary that either Brick or Roland can take advantage of. As for skill boosts, I'd say they're pretty excellent as well. You're receiving boosts to Slayer, which should further improve your crit damage, Enforcer, which will boost accuracy along with a lesser bonus to your bullet damage, and finally, you get a boost to high velocity, which improves projectile velocity in addition to bullet damage. This complement of skills is great for snipers since you're usually going to be at longer ranges while you're using them. However, you may find your non-snipers benefit as well, making this potentially a pretty great class mod all around. The sad thing though is that this is a DLC class mod and it requires the secret armory of General Knox. Supposedly, one of the better ways to get one of these is by farming the Omega Assassins while the Wanted Dead quest is active, as the Assassins tend to have a higher chance to drop the DLC class mods. If you can get your hands on one of these though, it's a phenomenal class mod, and while it won't make you quite as good at sniping as Mordecai, the sniper ammo regen makes it all worth it. Number 7. The Maliwan Volcano Sniper Rifle. There's a good chance that if you play Borderlands 1 long enough, you're probably going to come across one of these as it's a pretty common legendary. Despite that though, I would say the Volcano is one of the better, more common legendaries, and while its fire exclusivity doesn't do quite as well against armor, the elemental accessory it possesses is quite good. This is primarily because the Volcano accessory doesn't reduce the damage of the weapon itself and actually ends up boosting fire rate. Add on top of that the Volcano's larger area of effect when it procs, and the Volcano can actually be pretty great when going up against groups of enemies that are close together. While I will admit there are definitely better snipers out there, the Volcano does go surprisingly well with Lilith thanks to a couple of skills that she has. Skills like Slayer, Enforcer, and High Velocity actually go fairly well with sniper rifles, and a skill like Spark can improve your proc chance. Add on the fact that the Volcano is a fairly common legendary throughout the games, and I think you'll find this is a pretty good weapon for Lilith. Like many other Borderlands 1 legendaries though, the Volcano can be acquired from any suitable loot source. So if you want one, just play the game and you should come across one eventually. Number 6. The Hyperion FamilyFriendly SMG. While I would like to refer to this by its own name, this is supposed to be a family-friendly YouTube channel, so I'll be referring to this thing as the family-friendly SMG going forward. Much like its Borderlands 2 version, the family-friendly SMG just so happens to be one of the most accurate weapons in the game, and is perfect for Lilith due to her affinity for SMGs. The supreme accuracy comes from the family-friendly SMG's barrel, which, unlike its non-unique counterpart, just so happens to have a greater improvement to its accuracy maximum, which overall makes the family-friendly SMG more accurate under sustained fire. Otherwise, the family-friendly SMG's barrel is very similar to the standard barrel 5 that tends to be found on most SMGs already, and features that barrel's signature boosts to damage along with the nice reductions to both recoil and projectile spread. The sad thing about the family-friendly SMG in Borderlands 1 though is that its enhanced critical hit damage is bugged, which is unfortunate because it would make the family-friendly SMG way more powerful in Borderlands 1. However, I would say despite that though, the family-friendly SMG still has quite a bit of flexibility when it comes to accessories and can come in all elements, which can't be said of the other recommended SMGs that are appearing on this list. So despite that flaw, the family-friendly SMG is still pretty excellent. Ultimately, if you want one of these, be sure to keep an eye out for them in the wild as they can drop from any suitable loot source. Maybe you'll even get one with a funny prefix / name combination. Number 5. The Mercenary Class Mod. Given Lilith's propensity for SMGs, it would seem silly to not include a class mod for improving them. When it comes to percentage-based boosts, the Mercenary Comm should always boost SMG damage, with a secondary boost also appearing depending on what material you get to spawn on the class mod. Material 2 grants elemental effect chance, which should improve your capacity to apply damage over time effects, while the highly desirable Material 3 grants the ability to regenerate SMG ammo. When it comes to skill boosts, Merc Comms boost Quicksilver, which boosts your fire rate with all weapons, High Velocity, which boosts bullet damage and projectile velocity, and finally Girl Power, which is a skill that allows the player's shield to regenerate a certain percentage of your total shield capacity per second upon defeating an enemy. Overall, these skill boosts are pretty good, with the boosts to High Velocity and Quicksilver being nice for DPS, and Girl Power providing some additional survivability. All in all, this is a great class mod for Lilith, and if you want one, be sure to keep an eye out for them as they can drop from any suitable loot source. Number 4. The Maliwan Tsunami SMG. So the Tsunami is pretty weird. The item card indicates it's supposed to be a shock SMG, but the muzzle flash is similar to a fire weapon's. On top of that, when you actually use it, it fires a combination of standard non-elemental bullets, along with these diagonally oscillating bullets that can apply either shock or corrosive status effects. It's pretty weird, and hopefully by watching the gameplay, you can see what the Tsunami is doing, where the primary projectiles tend to be non-elemental, while the proc oscillating projectiles are either shock or corrosive. While these properties make the Tsunami a little more unpredictable than the Nemesis when it comes to getting both the shock and/or corrosive effects to proc, the ability is still pretty powerful when it does occur. On most enemies, this will decimate their shields, while the corrosive effect combines well and is really effective against Crimson Lance. If you ask me, the Tsunami is a great Maliwan SMG, and it's a shame that it didn't return in the later games. Maybe we'll see it in Borderlands 3, but for now, if you want one of these things, you can only get it from Badass Desperados, Badass Engineers, Badass Infantry, as well as both Cromorachs and Crimson Lance chests in the General Knox DLC in Borderlands 1. Number 3. The Maliwan Firehawk Pistol. While it's not quite as ideal on Lilith as its SMG counterparts that we'll be talking about later on in this video, the Firehawk repeater pistol is still pretty powerful and just so happens to be a great choice for Lilith due to its elemental nature and great damage over time potential. Like many Maliwan legendaries, the Firehawk has really powerful procs that just seem to melt enemies, and this can in part be attributed to the Firehawk's fairly impressive accessory, which actually manages to boost damage rather than reduce it like normal legendary accessories do. Granted, the base damage boost is only like 10% or so, but to actually see a boost rather than the removal of a damage penalty or a legendary accessory is pretty nice to see. And it stacks on top of the great burn damage that the Firehawk is capable of. Otherwise, there's not really a whole lot else to the Firehawk other than it's a really powerful fire pistol that can work great on Lilith depending on what class mods you decide to use. So if you're looking for something powerful and you really want one of these things on your character, be sure to keep an eye out for a Firehawk as it can drop from any suitable loot source. Number 2. The Double Anarchy SMG. So the Anarchy SMG, not to be confused with the Anarchist pistol from later games in the series, was really one of the first fairly popular non-unique weapons in the Borderlands series, and in that sense, it is Borderlands 1's equivalent to popular non-uniques from Borderlands 2 like the Vladof Anarchist, Jacob's Gatling Gun, and Torg Ravager. What makes the Anarchy SMG so awesome is its quite frankly ridiculous times for projectile count, which may end up reducing the Anarchy's effective range, but also allows for impressive damage output. Especially at higher fire rates, as you can pretty much unload a wall of lead into an enemy's face. This times 4 projectile count effect comes from the combination of two different effects. The first is the double accessory for SMGs, which improves projectile count and magazine size at the expense of decreasing damage and accuracy, and the second part is the Anarchy's unique title, which only appears on SMGs with a low accuracy rating and provides an additional magazine size boost, adds an additional 2 projectiles while also decreasing accuracy. The reason I'm including this, as opposed to something like the Bone Shredder, which can come in a hybrid variant that regenerates ammo, is because the Anarchy, I think, is just a bit better and is overall more ammo efficient. Plus, since both are non-elemental anyway and we're playing Lilith, we have access to some easy ammo regen from the Mercenary Comm, which sort of negates the need for ammo regen being specifically on the SMG itself. Overall though, the Anarchy is an awesome SMG for Lilith, and if you want one, be sure to keep an eye out for one of these as they can drop from any suitable loot source. And finally, number 1, the Maliwan Hellfire SMG. So the Hellfire has been consistently good throughout the Borderlands games, however it was probably at its best in Borderlands 1 due to how damage over time effects tend to be a lot better balanced in Borderlands 1. And I guess it also doesn't hurt that the Hellfire's incendiary effect in the first game is really powerful too. Like many other elemental legendaries, the Hellfire's effect comes from its unique accessory for Maliwan SMGs, which not only doesn't have a damage penalty like most fire elemental accessories, but also allows every shot fired to ignite or light enemies on fire. On top of that, this ignition effect can stack, allowing the player to deal a bunch of damage over time to would-be foes. So rather than just one fairly powerful damage over time on one enemy, you can get 2 or 3, which almost ensures that most things you'll come across will succumb to the flames. It's really the combination of the Hellfire being an SMG as well as being an elemental weapon that makes this thing so exceptionally good on Lilith. While Spark may not be as necessary with the Hellfire since the ignition effect is basically guaranteed, you still can pair the Hellfire with a Mercenary Class Mod to improve SMG damage and gain either improved elemental effect chance or ammo regen, with the latter in my opinion being more desirable. After all, the ability to potentially have a near endless supply of ammo is pretty appealing on something like the Hellfire. In the end though, the Hellfire is a must-have for Lilith and at least in my experience tends to be a fairly common legendary throughout the game. So be sure to keep an eye out for one of these as they can drop from any suitable loot source. Alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, and again, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.